Welcome back to another exciting episode of Stacker News Live. We're enjoying Thanksgiving week here in Austin. Keyan, how's your week?
Gobble gobble.
Gobble
It's pretty.
gobble.
It was pretty good. Uh, yeah, I like the holidays a lot. Um, I don't know. Austin slows down a bit, which is nice. I like fall weather. You know, excessive amounts of eating is always nice. I wish I hadn't gotten
Yeah,
fat leading up to the holidays, but
yeah,
but that's it. But I love it. I think it's a lot of fun.
yeah. We were
Um,
just talking about like taking time off and like what that feels like. And I had mentioned I was like, yeah, if I don't force myself to take days off, like I won't. I'll just keep working every day. And yeah,
yeah, I don't know if that's actually bad. I mean, it definitely feels like there's a bit of diminishing productivity. Um, I don't know the last day, last day I didn't work at all. It was probably like months ago. Um, maybe not, maybe no, maybe more like a month to 6 weeks ago. And I think there is something where you're like at the end of your candle wick, and you're not getting as much output for every minute you put in because you haven't recharged fully. But on the other hand, it's I like don't you get in such a pattern of working that like you don't know what else to do. Like I think about friends who like travel,
yeah,
like that, like their leisure time, like their life is primarily leisure, and it just sounds so lame to me. Like I like to be putting stuff into the world. I just watched this clip from Steve Jobs on Twitter where he was like, it was that clip where he says, the moment you realize the world is just made by other people just like you, who are like no more gifted or whatever than you are, is the moment you can begin like imparting an impact on the world and actually like molding it into what you want. And like that, what's more interesting than that? I don't know. uh
yeah. It's
not
yeah.
not traveling, not sitting on a beach, sharing pictures of it on Instagram, hoping people find me interesting because I can relocate my body to another physical location. Like I don't like what I don't know.
I think there's just yeah, I think builders are just built different, you know? Like I didn't know that I could have an impact on the world around me until, last year. Like but before then I was just like a fiat millennial, just like enjoying the easy life and like not really doing anything, just stacking sats and like there's nothing wrong with that. It's just like after you start realizing that you can actually make you can start bending the world the way you want it. It becomes addicting, at least for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's even if like you're not, like I don't feel great, like I'm great at it, but it's really enjoyable. Just like life is like a video game a little bit. Like
Yeah,
it's like the OG video game. Like you're level, you can level up. Like
yeah, you really
you can
can
yeah.
get enough mushrooms. You can actually get a whistle and then just go straight to level 7 if you want to if you're really smart.
You got to you get some cheat codes or something. Some
Yeah,
people got those. I
yeah.
don't know.
Anyways,
Before we get into it,
oh yeah.
what are you thankful for this year?
What am I thankful for? I
Yeah.
think I'm thankful for my community the most and the people I get to work with every day at Pleb Lab.
The
Um,
Mexican community? Is that?
no, I mean like just like
Just
Austin, just like
messing with
Austin,
you. I know.
Greater Austin, Texas, and then yeah, just the amount of like just the every day. It's just momentum is just going and going. It's building, and I never like when I worked at a corporation, like it wasn't all one mission, like with one dream in mind. But when I work at Plub Lab, it feels like a mission. Like we're all going towards this mission, and even though we're all working in different things and all doing different, totally different like segments of the space, like it just all feels like it's one unified. There's something to be said about that, man. It's like it's a better version of what like of what maybe a decentralized like real world community should like look like or like be like. I don't know. Um,
I know what
yeah.
you mean. It's like great to have a tribe or and like a purpose you share with people. I think people have found that in a variety of ways. Like I think most of us live with that as like part of our life for a long time. And I think it's only recently people have kind of lost that like group identity, that like strong group identity, that strong tribe, um, where most people have like very tenuous connections with their family and stuff. Now it's like there really isn't much of a tribe anymore, and it's nice to find that in Bitcoin and in Austin
Yeah, that's what
for
I'm
sure.
thankful for. What are you thankful for?
I don't know. I really struggle with this one. I think. I mean, I'm like thankful for everything. I mean, like most of the things I think about, I'm really glad that they're there. I don't like. I was like, someone asked this on Stacker News yesterday, and I said I was thankful for Bitcoin because I don't know. Like, I'd probably be working on like machine learning or something right now, which is not the same. I'm also thankful. I'm thankful for like information in general. Like, I think I'd be kind of bored um, without like all of like all of the stored information that people have like collected over the years, just like books and I mean all of it's online too. But like I think that I'm really thankful for that. But really just I'm thankful just to be alive and that I might be alive longer, you know?
That's awesome. That's great. Yeah, information is powerful, man. If I think it, especially these days, it's on the same. I would even say it's more important than money, than fiat information. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely something. I don't it's definitely a cool thing.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Let's get in the top
yeah,
five stories of the
the top
week.
four, top five stories of the week on
Yeah.
Stacker News. The top story is this post about El Salvador. Bitcoin Sanity writes how and why they're gaslighting you about supporting El Salvador and Bitcoin. Um, this was pretty good. Apparently Bitcoin Sanity is a native Salvadorian. They grew up in El Salvador. I don't know where they are now, but they're basically saying, you know, Bukele has done a lot of good for El Salvador, and thinking of him as like calling him a dictator, you know, might be is in his opinion is wrong. He's responding specifically to something Vitalik wrote, I guess, saying that Bitcoin maximalists need to like stop supporting Bukele because he's a dictator. Alex Gladstein, I think, has shared a similar perspective, but he says it's just in general what it is like Western condescension, thinking that you know these people living in this third world country who are you know poor and uneducated have been brainwashed by Bukele into thinking he's not a dictator. It kind of goes into like the history of El Salvador, like their political history, like some like how you know, the murder rate. He talks about how his someone he had a neighbor who was killed on his own front porch, and how bad the murders and stuff were there before Bukele stepped in. Some of the missteps Bukele made in terms of optics. Doesn't really have anything bad to say about Bukele in general. It's also just it's really well written. You know, clearly not not uneducated. You know, assuming he's actually El Salvadorian. Um, you know,
Yeah, I think.
pretty fun to read.
Yeah, I think when it comes to like people trying to take shots at I guess political figures of a sort. It's always best just to like stick to the facts, Like I mean, everybody's gonna have an opinion. Everybody's gonna have a way they feel about a certain individual. But if you like stick to the facts, it's like he became the new president on June 1st, 2019. There was two main parties at the time. There was a left wing FMLN and the conservative arena that had dominated politics in El Salvador over the past 3 decades. He represented the Ghana National Alliance, an ultra conservative party. And then when he got elected, the homicide rates, murders in El Salvador had dropped by as much as 60% since he became president. And people say at the time that it was because he had a non-aggression deal between parts of the government and the gangs. The party Nuevas Ideas, basically like new ideas, were on, and this is where I think it comes down to like when you have an initiative like Bitcoin that's being built in a country like El Salvador that has seen tremendous amount of like just corruption throughout decades and years and even hundreds of years, going back to as far as like the 1890s and like in the 1979, like when they had the coup d'etat. So like that's what I'm trying to say. Like there's a lot more here that most Americans do not know about. I was lucky enough to actually write a whole research paper on El Salvador when they adopted Bitcoin, like last year when this happened. So I have it on Thriller. I'll post it in the notes there. But when it comes to like tearing down political, you know, people, it's always best to stick to the facts, man. It's like it's so easy to paint somebody in a different light, but if you just stick to the facts and like what have they done, what are they doing, and like yeah, that's how I look at it. I definitely do see a lot of dissension going on right now in the Bitcoin space where people are attacking the man, the figure, and not sticking to the facts, and that's where you kind of get into a whole of other extremes that you can start throwing opinions around it and rumors and stuff, and it just becomes it becomes much more difficult to have a real conversation when it starts getting in that space. So
That's a great point. Yeah, I think based on what I've heard, and I don't know much about this at all, so my opinion is like not really a valid one. But based on the facts that I've heard, it seems like Bukele has done good for El Salvador, and I don't even I know so little. I don't even know what the definition of a dictator is. But like my read on him in interviews is that he's a smart person who has empathy and doesn't appear selfish. He seems base to me, like as a human being, which doesn't mean a whole lot, but uh, yeah, I don't know. Something kind of interesting is Bitcoin Sanity reached out to me on Twitter and he's like, "Hey, do you mind that I wrote this on Stacker News? Because I shared it on Twitter after I wrote it, and it apparently there was like a huge it drove a bunch of traffic to the site. There was like a bunch of controversy around it. I guess a bunch of people trying to argue with them. At least people on Stacker News seem to primarily agree
and it
with
comes
him.
down to the writing itself, right? Like this is where Stacker News wins every time. It's like who's upvoting it? Like it's the top news of the news item of the week, and that's because there's another great. We'll talk about it later, but there's other great news items. But this original content that somebody's giving you an alternative message to what's being said on Twitter, you can kind of start telling like who's reading Twitter for their news and who's actually sticking to opinionated pieces and more well thought out ideas on another platform. It's becoming apparent these days, even more so than it was like 3 months ago. And I don't know if it's a 140 character limit that's caused this, but yeah, man, I foresee this happening more and more, where you start seeing this divergence between two different social platforms, right? Like one that is like doesn't have a mechanism in place that can measure great conversation, right? And then another one that is just like a tweet or a like and influence that doesn't mean anything. Because those aren't real people in a real space, if that makes sense. Like it's, but maybe I'm going too hard right now.
No, I mean,
But
but I think you're speaking to something. The reasons why this might be like conversations like this might be an issue on Twitter might be like, you know, multidimensional. There's a lot going on, a lot of differences. I think the 140 or the 280 character limit is a factor. It's very hard to provide context and like deep thoughts on Twitter. People are used to only reading headlines on Twitter of stories that get posted and responding to that. There's like a culture of a limited attention span, and then additionally, uh, there's really not much at stake on Twitter. People, while some people are using their real identities, other people aren't. So even your identity isn't really at stake. So there's a bunch of stuff. But I thought this was a well written piece. Nice to hear from someone who is allegedly from El Salvador and what their point of view is on it. I haven't heard. I mean, all I've heard is bad about Bukele is that he's been called a dictator, and that there are people who disagree with him. We have elected presidents of the United States that get called dictators, and over 50% of the country disagree with them. So I don't know. Don't trust verify with all this stuff, but um, you know, I, I'm like inclined to believe that Bukele is not a bad actor personally, but
Yeah, and then also too, you got to think too. Like, I mean, no government's perfect, right? Like, we have a constitution that's not even followed these days. So, like,
mm-hmm.
what does that say about our government? And I love America, right? But like, it's like, go fix your home first before you start complaining about somebody else's. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah, it's on some level it's none of our business. I remember when we went to like a couple of years ago, I went to Brazil and spent a couple of weeks in Brazil, and we were talking to uh, someone who lived there that was friends with my wife, and uh, they really don't want they don't care at all what we think of Brazil or Brazilian politics or what they should do. They're actually the most people who are in these countries are fed up of people from countries like the United States thinking they know what's best um, for their country, and so I just butt out of it. Really, I mean, like they'll trust the people to figure out their country, and support them however you can, I guess, in making the right decisions. But anyway, I thought this was a great post and really nice to see
It's
on
from
Stacker
Bitcoin
News.
Sanity.
Bitcoin
Yeah.
sanity.
Yeah, definitely post more El Salvadorian posts. I would love to hear like a day in the life over there. That'd be cool.
Yeah, I think he's out now, but
Oh, okay.
yeah, maybe we definitely have a lot of El Salvadorians on Stacker News, so maybe some of them will come out of the woodwork now. The next top story is another original content post. This is great. This was shared by Jameson Lopp on Twitter, but it's basically a breakdown of the dominance of Lightning implementations or the proportions of Lightning implementations in Lightning. The kind of crescendo here is that LND comprises slightly over 90% of all Lightning implementations using the methodology that Heisenberg used to determine the Lightning implementation. What he does is he looks at the CLTV delta that is broadcast in gossip messages by each of the Lightning node implementations, and each of the Lightning node implementations defaults to a different CLTV delta. And so if you look at the gossip messages, you can kind of get a rough ballpark of the dominance of certain Lightning implementations, and it appears most of our assumption that LND is dominating is true. Apparently, there's been other studies that have had similar results, and then Core Lightning makes up about 7%, and then Eclair makes up about 2%. Really cool, like original content. Like I don't know where I would have got this information, and I've been curious about this myself, but lack the I guess like the strong desire to do research like this. It just isn't something I'm prone to do, but
I
really
thought it
cool. There's some
was
other things.
I thought it was
Yeah, go ahead.
interesting too how they broke down like LND, Core Lightning, Eclair, and like what are the main use cases for them. I thought it was very fascinating. Like I didn't even know Eclair was mainly used for corporations who are trying to build larger Lightning channels. And they also talk about LND being the very easy API to use and access for a lot of people that are building. Core Lightning, it was described as being stable, and apps within apps. I think it was. I forget the exact quote, but yeah, dude, there's more of this stuff just for like just for a basic understanding of the breakdown of these different implementations is good. Um, yeah.
Yeah. I thought that was excellent as well. The some of the other data they bring out is like the average number of channels per implementation running. You can kind of see here that Eclair on average has a lot more channels, so that would be kind of consistent with the point of view that a lot of like perhaps larger entities are using Eclair. I mean, they also have the largest Lightning node on the Lightning network. Like their own, like the authors of Eclair run the async Lightning node, and they're also responsible for the Phoenix wallet, and they have tons and tons and tons of channels. So I imagine that's dominating the average. I'd be more interested actually in seeing the median than the average to get a better idea of what's actually going on, given that outliers are likely to bias this quite a bit. But then you can see Core Lightning has quite a few channels, also suggesting that there may be a very large Core Lightning nodes out the I on my home Lightning node, I just connect to Stacker News. Like I have one channel with it. I run LND, but I have one channel, and then Stacker News' Lightning node, I think it maybe has like 30 channels right now. So not a whole bunch. But yeah, really, really cool. People, I mean, a lot of people are interested in this. Again, Lop shared it on Twitter. I got to get him on for an AMA, and then I've had someone else like really desperate to find out who Heisenberg is on Twitter so that they can like reach out to them and follow them. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, but excellent post.
Yeah. Two back-to-back Stacker News posts, man. This is awesome.
Yeah, and some of the comments, KR asked about LDK, and LDK is kind of apparently doesn't include default parameters, so there's no real fingerprint for someone running an LDK node. I think Tony Giorgio stepped in here somewhere and said, let's see. Oh no, it was null count. Non-LND users are more likely to match the LND defaults for OPSEC, and that's a good point. Like these are very rough numbers. Like lots of people could be running Eclair and Core Lightning nodes and just using LND defaults to hide what implementation they're using from the network. So
Yeah.
still really, really cool. The next top story is an AMA for Hodlonaut, who is self-declared taco pleb and the editor of Citadel 21. I don't know if you got any questions on
Yeah,
Car.
I asked some questions. He didn't answer them. I think he had stepped off by then. But yeah, I really want to know his favorite taco. I didn't know that he was the one that started the whole torch thing. I didn't know that.
Oh, the lightning torch a few years
Yeah,
ago.
yeah. He goes, how has Lightning improved since the torch? He goes, much more stable, thicker channels, overall liquidity is higher. Projects like Breeze have made streaming sats and running a self-custodial Lightning node wallet easy. So it was like a lot of little interesting little tidbits on the past couple years. I didn't know he had his hands on. I was like, wow, well, look at that. He's so revered in the Lightning space and in the Bitcoin space. It always makes me wonder, like, who is this guy? Have I met him before? Like, all this stuff, or she? I mean, for all I know, you know. But yeah.
I mean, I think we know their identity given the lawsuit with
Oh,
fake
really?
Toshi.
Oh.
Yeah.
I was glad to see there wasn't that many. I didn't see that many fake Toshi questions. It's good to see he has that people have moved on from that somewhat. Yeah, it was a great AMA. It's good to see getting some of these people on Stacker News because I don't think we get too many plebs on Stacker News.
Yeah.
but it's
Yeah, definitely
cool.
brings in the pleb. Yeah.
Yeah.
What are so some of the other questions? Just to go over a few. Ellen123 asks, "How did it feel to take down fake Toshi?" Hodlonot says it felt really good to win, but there's an appeal pending, and then
Yeah.
there's also a trial in the UK.
No
So
bueno.
that's apparently not over. He's very good on OPSEC. Lots of people asking him about hardware wallet usage, and he's like, "I'll never
Oh
tell you anything
yeah.
about my setup."
It's like what hardware wallet would you own Bitcoin? What is Bitcoin? I'm here for the community.
He's Kevin Rook asked him, "Who do you learn most from in the Bitcoin space?" And he says he learns most from the plebs, and because of all their different perspectives and journeys and stuff, and then just interacting with them on Twitter. And then he also shouts out Gigi and Giacomo,
Giacomo.
specifically Giacomo. Is that how you say it?
Yeah.
I'm not Italian. Forgive me. I asked him what his favorite article ever published on Citadel
Oh,
21
interesting. What was it?
was. Why the yuppie elite dismiss Bitcoin, which is a great one. I tend to share that one a lot because lots of people are
That
kind
used
of
to be me.
did. Oh, a yuppie elite.
I was an elite though, but I was a yuppie.
You consider yourself a yuppie?
Yeah, before Bitcoin, I was definitely. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah.
Oh dang. I
Yeah.
don't yeah, I don't know if I probably would identify as a yuppie. I probably still would identify as a yuppie.
Well,
I feel
you're
soft.
anti Airbnb, so you're definitely not a yuppie.
That's true. That's pretty suggestive of yuppie. This one Commodore 21. I haven't read this one, so I bookmarked that and I'll read that one soon. But a great AMA. Thanks for stopping by, Hodl or not, and congrats on the win
Wait, have you
against
added
Yoshi.
bookmarks to Stacker
Oh
News?
no, not a
Oh,
Stacker
wait.
News bookmark.
Oh, okay. I was like, I heard you say bookmark. I was like, wait a second. This should be news.
Yeah,
Okay.
not yet. It'll
Okay.
happen eventually.
Okay.
The next top story is Michael Atwood, the founder of Oshi and current organizer of Austin Bitcoin Club, stopped by for another AMA. We had him I don't know if you remember, we had him I feel
Yeah.
like a year ago or
Yeah.
something.
This is second AMA. He might be the only one with two AMAs.
Well, Kevin Rook sets up these AMAs, and I think Kevin had forgotten that Michael had come on for an AMA, and I saw it was in my calendar that this AMA was happening, and I was like, Kevin, Michael's already been on for an AMA, and he's like, oh,
It's like, my bad.
yeah, basically. But I mean, since Michael's last AMA, he's raised money for Oshi from none other than 1031, and yeah, and has taken over Austin Bitcoin Club from UCAR. And
What?
what do you mean?
We gave
You
it to
used
him.
to.
We gave it
I
to
know
him.
you. I know
Yeah.
he didn't. I didn't say it wasn't a coup or anything.
Oh, okay. I was like,
You gifted it to him,
yeah.
and yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
a lot has
Michael.
changed for
Yeah,
him.
Michael used to be a big part of Austin Bitcoin Club, and so me and Kyle, everybody knows the story by this point. Me and Kyle felt at the time it was like, okay, we're gonna go do Pleb Lab full time, and that's a whole nother like community in its own, just from the developer space. So it was like, okay, we need to really focus on that, and I think it's paid off for both of us. I think when I look at Pleb Lab and see how much it's grown, and I look at Austin Bitcoin Club and see how much it's grown, it's very much needed where it needs to be like somebody's full time, if not part time job. So
Yeah, yeah, totally, and it fits well with what Michael does.
yeah,
He is a sort of a pleb whisperer, um, and it fits well with like Oshi too. It just makes a bunch of sense for Michael. Um,
to
I would
run
if
it.
you want to, yeah, to run it,
Hmm.
and if you want to learn more about like point of sale kind of merchant adoption and stuff, I highly recommend reading this AMA. Michael
He's a whiz at
probably
it.
thinks about it. Yeah, Michael thinks about it more than probably anyone. I mean, I'm sure there are people who think about it at least as much, but he's really good at it and very open and easy to talk to. And you can see here his answers. Most of his answers are longer than the questions. So
Yeah, he because it's
uh,
because he sits at the intersection of like lightning, adoption, and then local small medium sized businesses, and then their payment systems. Like he sits like in all those. He's like steering traffic. It's interesting how he's able to have these different modules in his head about all these different things, and he's kind of an expert at it at this point. There's no one better at it
Yeah.
than him, in my opinion.
Yeah, really curious to see what becomes of Oshi. Really, we've all been bullish on Michael for a long time, so great to have him on for another AMA. We'll move on. The next up story is the maturation of Lightning. This was a post written by Roy, who is the CEO of Breeze. In summary, he basically says that Lightning is maturing. It's going from a kind of an AOL stage where you kind of had these like AOL. Like you can kind of imagine, if you're familiar with AOL, it was like kind of this monolithic internet application that kind of did everything. It did all your messaging. It was a web browser. You got your email on it. Basically, did everything you wanted. You didn't have any specialization. Just AOL did it all for you. And then the internet matured, and now you began to have search application or companies dedicated to search, and then companies dedicated to messaging, and then companies dedicated to the browser, etc. Companies dedicated to the ISP, and that was suggestive of like uh, developmental progress in the internet, was the fact that it became appealing enough that people could begin focusing and specializing on things. And he's saying that Lightning is undergoing this process too, and he kind of gives a bunch of examples of companies emerging, because I think Roy and Breeze have been in this space since the very beginning of Lightning, and so they've seen the AOL type companies where they're building kind of everything that you could possibly build for Lightning, and now he's beginning to see the emergence of kind of more specific things getting built. And it was a really good point, really hit home for me. I think it definitely appears true. I love the analogies he uses. He uses the analogies of also like like a merchant, like a shepherd family who would produce a number of goods, like he says leather, milk, cheese, meat, sausages, and that shepherd family would do all of those things and sell them at the market. And now today, like, because we're more sophisticated, the shepherd family just focuses on raising sheep, and then other people produce the milk, and other people produce the cheese, and other people produce the leather. And we all get, like, as a consumers, we get a much better product. And because everyone focused on their individual thing is doing such a better job than the shepherd family could do it at all of them. So I thought it was really good.
Yeah, I read it too. I thought it was interesting that he really didn't touch on it too much. I mean, he mentioned like El Salvador, Bitcoin Beach, but like he was talking about how the infrastructure, with voltage and some of these other Lightning services. But then he also did touch on like it also needs like a real world infrastructure in place as well too, and he kind of touched on all those things. I literally see it like very, 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 very similar, right? Like inside of Puebla, we've been talking about this whole application thing that's going to be built off here, and we're ready for the application era of Lightning. And I think you need I think you need some type of infrastructure in place, whether it be in Austin or somewhere where that can kind of happen. I think it can be done online, and I think we've seen it with Bolt.fun, and what they've been able to do is just incredible. But there's something to be said where people can go and get and think and actually like make game changing things for Lightning, and we'll get into the next top story that kind of proves that. But yeah.
Yeah, yeah, great post from Roy, and
He always
I was
posts all the time. It's always cool to see his posts.
yeah, he writes really well, and he does a really good job with analogies, which I find my brain is like very susceptible to analogies. Like it loves analogies, so I really enjoy his posts usually. The next top story is your top story of the week, which is what you were just talking about, which is Mutiny developed a full Lightning node running in a web browser. They basically got LDK to compile to WASM, and got it to the point where you could actually run a Lightning node and open a Lightning channel and make payments with it. And in this video here from Ben on Twitter, he posts paying for an op return. Why is it your top story, Car?
I think I think this might be the most important story of the year, man. At least on this show. Yeah, maybe not like the most important of Bitcoin or whatever, but I think of like the show, if we're doing like SNL, I don't. Are we gonna do like an SNL top five of the year for us or something at the end of the year? Should we? Maybe
It's
we
not a
should.
bad idea. Yeah, we can get like a bottle of champagne, maybe some apple cider for
I
you.
think I think if yeah I think honestly like if we do an SNL top five stories of the year, like what's my number one? It's this one, and I think most people don't really understand like what just happened here, but you could potentially bring a private sovereign Lightning experience to a global audience. So that means anybody with a web browser can go on Lightning now, and like I mean, not yet. They haven't released it yet, but like, you know what I mean? Like, it's that important. And I think when the whole Nostr thing was kind of cool too, right? It was like encrypted DMs and stuff like that. I just think like, and we were just kind of talking about it with the whole infrastructure in the real world. Like, you know, a lot of these guys work out of Plublab, right? And they were up till like 2, 3 in the morning, several nights in a row. Man, I would see them. I'd be like, oh my god, these are the people that change the world, right? It's like these guys, it's like Carmen, Paul, and Tony. It's like they go out and do great things and change the world, and they move it in a different direction. Now I might just be like, you know, hyping this up or whatever, and I don't want to do that because everybody knows I do that in general. But I will say, to me, seeing how hard they worked, seeing what they've been able to accomplish, and then seeing this Lightning node run inside the freaking browser, it's crazy, man. It's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you think at the beginning of the year you were going to see a Lightning node running inside a browser?
I mean, I know people had been talking about it for a long time. Like I remember, I don't know, it was probably like a year ago that I think Roast Beef was talking about that L&D really wanted to get something like this built and done. I don't know. I don't know where that ended up at. Maybe they did get to some level of development there. But you know, I do I like I don't think I did expect it to be running in a browser. I'm not, you know, and I'm not sure. I can see the potential of something like this, and I'd be really curious to talk to the Mutiny team about it and where they like what they see it being used for, and like what because they have a better handle on what the limitations are, because there are, you know, there are probably trade-offs with running a node in a browser versus like a long run a browser tab versus running it in a long running long lived process on your computer in a program or whatever. Um, but I do see this as cool,
Yeah, it's
and
really cool. It's not
yeah,
something you see every day. Like it's literally
no,
not something I had. Didn't have this on my bingo card this year. And it's but like you look at this and it. I'm not saying it's a direct result of things, but it is. It's like, you know, you had like all this, you know, communistic type of things going on earlier this year in Canada, you know, and then the Bitcoiners fight back, and then you see something else happen, and Bitcoiners fight back, and then it results in something like Mutiny Web. It's like everything has a it's a balance, right? It's like bad, good. It just keeps swinging back and forth, and it's fascinating, man. It's fascinating to see like this kind of initiative happen, and then now anybody can go and use Lightning just like on the web, dude. It's so cool.
no, it's very cool. I mean, I think my overall like sentiment is I'm like very impressed that they got it this far. Um, and yeah, it's awesome, and I'm looking forward to seeing them continue to work together because they're an awesome team. So
Do you think they win the Bitcoin prize for Bolt.fun?
I mean, I don't know. I know that there's been a bunch of people have been posting all their pitches on Stacker News. I've seen a few of them at least, and it seems like there are a bunch of people who built stuff this year. I haven't gone through and like
65.
watched
There's
them
like
all.
65.
That's
65.
crazy.
Yeah, dude.
That's absolutely crazy.
That's why
That's
both
so
dot fund's so
incredible.
important, dude. So important what they did, Johns and Ed. Like you should have them on. Have you had them on yet?
Oh,
AMA?
for an AMA,
Yeah.
yeah, we did an AMA with
Oh, you did?
them.
Okay.
I think at the beginning of Bolt Fun, we did an AMA with
Okay.
them. Yeah, it
Yeah.
was a good AMA. Yeah, really cool. Like I can't wait to like mess around with it, and then you know hear more about what the guys think about it. I hadn't even watched their pitch video for it. I imagine it includes demos like this, but um, yeah, really freaking cool. I mean, like you can imagine a future where applications like Stacker News or whatever run on the web. And I don't know if you saw Car, but like shortly after this was released, Jack Dorsey from Twitter was tweeting a lot about like I think what he said was mobile OS that web app only or something is kind of what he said. And I mean I don't know if it was like a direct result of this, but we know
Yeah.
that Jack is like kind of secretly plugged into everything that's happening in Bitcoin and Lightning.
Yeah.
Um,
It'd be cool to see what yeah, yeah, and we talk about them a lot, right? Like it would be interesting to see like his thoughts on it. Like cuz I'm sure they were thinking about this back then, right? Like in the early 2000s, like didn't Steve Jobs come out and say like when they first announced the iPhone it was going to be web app only and then they end up having to go through the App Store? So I'd like maybe we're at that place again. Maybe that's what
yeah,
Jack's saying maybe.
yeah, like it's time to cycle back. What like the web has matured enough to support that vision. It's certainly
Yeah.
more open than any app store is. So
Yeah, we're seeing it with like sites like Figma, right? And all these other things. So standards are in place finally. Yeah.
we're getting there.
Now we have a
Really
lightning. Now
cool.
we have a lightning node in a browser. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Dang.
All right,
Crazy.
we'll try to get through these next couple stories pretty fast here, just because we've already gone on a bit. But the next top story is Meta. So I released something that allows Sats to affect ranking now. But the basic gist is before the only thing that would affect ranking is like how many users voted on an item, and now if users now we can pull out a little more signal as to what users find valuable enough to spend money on, and we're hoping that increases the quality of the front page by really giving prominence to things that people find really valuable, and using this very hard money Bitcoin. And anyway, that was just kind of a small change, and I think it's consistent with like what people like the way many people thought Stacker News worked, and so it was like nice to do, and I think it will improve overall quality and hopefully get people more tips too. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Good
but
deal.
that little meta, and then my top story, which I wanted to cover, was the Bitcoin Core version 24 release. Peter Todd tweeted about, or not tweeted, posted on Stacker News about a little poll about whether people are going to enable mempool full RBF. There's a bunch of controversy around this if people don't know, but basically it Bitcoin 24 has a configuration option that allows you to treat every transaction as an RBF transaction in the mempool, and allow it, even if it's not signaling RBF, for you to replace it in your mempool if it is paying higher fees. And it's a bunch of controversy on the mailing list and stuff about it, but I think it's great. It's great. It's just an option that they're giving people to do this. I mean, I know, as if you've ever been a person with a stuck transaction that hasn't signaled RBF, like you'll probably be very thankful this is there. But there are lots of like sides to this. I know, there are prominent figures, specifically people who represent companies in some fashion or another, are against this change and making this easier for people to enable. people like John Carvalho and I think Sergey from Bit Refill, but still, kind of fun little bit of scandal.
Yeah, this is above my pay grade. I have no idea what you guys are always yapping back and forth about with RBF. Maybe one day somebody will write a really easy article on it.
I mean, this is a pretty good. So this this section of the release notes that Todd linked to
Mm-hmm.
is a pretty good, like, I'd say, like, layman's explanation of kind of what's going on, and we don't have to like beat it to death here,
Yeah,
but
I'll check it
um,
out.
yeah, it's a good little summary of it, and it's just one of those things where I think what it's called is like bike shedding, where it's like such a small change that everyone has a really big opinion about it because it's like fairly easy to understand and not really complicated. So there's opinions just develop very easily around it. Um, we'll get into super stacker news stat segment. Miss Super, haven't seen him in a while. Hope he's doing well. But the top users for the week in terms of stackers, John Attic stopped by for an AMA today, so he stacked quite a few sats. One of the top 10 core contributors right now. Bitcoin Sanity stacked quite a bit for their El Salvador post. Heisenberg for their Lightning implementation breakdown post. Me, who doesn't count, and then Michael Atwood for the AMA, but a number of people stacking
Nice.
this week. And then top spenders, I spent the most, which seems to be kind of normal. I spend a lot on if I find good content, I spend a lot. I just
Yeah.
I think I'm probably the most desensitized to this type of value for value naturally. Um, Stacker News spent quite a bit on the I think the meme contest. We the top meme. El Salvador Visas Foundation, Ben Carmen, lots of great spenders this week. But that I think does it.
Yeah.
Do we have any
That's it.
boosts?
We had a couple boosts, but no comments attached to them. I got an anonymous one and blockchain boot. Not here this week. I don't know.
What happened?
I don't know.
Maybe he's like really into Thanksgiving. He's like,
Maybe that's
yeah.
what it is. Blockchain boot is busy. He's probably busy. I've been following him on Damus, so check out all the
Okay.
blockchain boog updates there. He's like our main. Him and Super are like the main people that love the show. Everybody else is just like, what are they doing behind a yellow border?
Yeah. They're like, who are these guys? Yeah.
All right. Well,
How is Noster?
I haven't
It's
really been
almost
using it
over.
that much. I've been busy at work, but I'm looking forward to tomorrow. We got a Figma workshop tomorrow at Pleb Lab, so gonna go rest up the rest of the day and get ready for tomorrow and a long December. So, what about you?
Excellent. I think we're actually eating our Thanksgiving dinner today.
Oh,
We
nice.
didn't have one yesterday, so we're gonna do that. And then, yeah, I guess it's maybe figure out how to relax for a couple days and then get back to work. I don't know, but
Nice.
happy holidays to you, Car, and
Yeah.
all the stackers.
I'm still dreaming about your Texas brisket chili you made for our plebsgiving last weekend.
Oh, so good. I
I
miss it
mixed I
too.
mixed that in with Carmen's buffalo chicken dip, dude. It's a good combo.
Yeah, yeah, it was tasty. That whole potluck was amazing.
Can you believe it? We're doing it.
I cannot believe it.
All right. Well, you have a great weekend. We'll see you next time, Stacker.